Live on the Mic radio show on YouTube. Tune in every Saturday and Wednesday for hot news and opinions, you dig? Like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter at BR Live on the Mic and on Facebook and Instagram at Big Rich Live on the Mic. Join the conversation and catch that fire.
Big, rich, big, rich, big, rich, big. So where to begin? The bipolar goon in a padded room, consumed by the coming doom. The return of Christ at noon split the world in two. Dude pursued the cool until he ruled in 2077. His life's due. The tomb of the devil erected in my room. He resurrected and reunited with the fools, the Hutus in 94 and Ouagadougou in 2016. I see the clues, the Ku Klux Klan in the form of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Big Rich here, Big Rich Live on the Mic radio show. Back again for another installment of the Big Rich Live on the Mic radio show here on YouTube. I'm bidding you greetings and salutations. Happy holidays. Hope everybody is safe and warm, or if you live in the South, hopefully that you're cool, drink a nice little dry martini or whatever you might do. Throw some yak down. It's up to you. Should be a festive time in your life, even though we got a lot of skullduggery and buffoonery going on in this country. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about one subject. It's going to be a fairly short show today. We're just going to have one subject, which is basically just blowing up the whole airways or the airways. And we're just basically going to talk about that and chop it up. I've gotten so many requests on my input of the situation, and we'll just delve right into it. But first, just like I said, if you can like, subscribe, and share this show on your social media platforms, your Twitter feeds, your Facebook pages, I surely would appreciate it. Each one teach one here. That's what we do here at the channel. We try to expand our horizons, and that's the only way we're going to get bigger and better than ever. You know, we're back in the building once again, healthy, hopeful, but you know, hey, things happen, so we're definitely going to jump in on there. Again, our social media feeds: Twitter, capital B, capital R, live, big. No, I'm sorry. Let's back that up. Our social media feeds is Twitter, capital B, capital R, live on the mic. Instagram, Big Rich Live on the Mic, _ between each word. Our Facebook page, facebook.com/ Big Rich Live on the Mic. Email addresses: darkshadowmediagroup@gmail.com or Big Rich Live on the Mic @gmail.com. Lastly, but not leastly, our websites: www.darkshadowmediagroup.com and www.bigrichlivonthemic.com. Check them out. Join the conversation. Add your input. We appreciate anything that you give. Like, thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. You want to leave a message? That's fine. If you want to keep it betwixt us and you want to DM me or tweet me, I'll definitely get into that. And for our Saturday show, we'll get into some more of the your questions. We'll definitely do that. We'll take questions that whole Saturday show. But today's show, we're going to talk about the Walter Scott and former officer Slager mistrial in South Carolina. There's a whole lot of things that is terribly wrong with the justice system as a whole. And this is one of them. This exacerbates what everybody has been saying. You have on one end people, including myself, that has said that every cop, everybody knows, and my new subscribers and my new listeners know that I was a law enforcement officer for 23 years here in Florida. And I was a military veteran for 6 years before that, about 5.5 years, almost 6 years before that. So I'm not just spewing out hyperbole about stuff that I don't know. I've lived this life. You know what I'm saying? I've lived this life. I've been in struggles. I've been in what they call resistings, chasing people and stuff like that. So I'm not sitting around here trying to Monday morning quarterback things from a perspective of not having any type of background in that. So take that, you can take that with a grain of salt, but I try to put out that so it's not like, oh, this is just another talking head, disgruntled person. But getting back to what I was saying, you have a faction of people that say video is it. Well, first of all, you have to say and realize, you have to realize that no one thing is the end all be all. That's just not possible. It's just really not possible. Okay. So one thing is not the end of all means. You have to put a aggregate. You have to put a bunch of things in together, and then that will help your problem. That will fix your problem and stuff like that. So you have two cases that were caught on camera. Okay, you had from a couple of years back to Eric Garner, where you can see that I can't even pronounce his name, but Palatanio, something like that. I know I'm butchering it. My bad. Choked this man with an illegal chokehold from his department, and not only was he not prosecuted, but now he's still sitting around, and we still haven't had any civil rights charges or anything like that. We'll get into that. I know a lot of people wants me to cover, civil rights charges as far as the federal level, and that's a whole nother show, because that, everybody knows I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but that was set up. The bar is set so high in a federal case, and I think that was a capitulation of the federal governments around the Civil War time and stuff, when they wanted to keep the Union together. But I digress. We'll get back into that. So you had that, and you saw that he wasn't there. And then now you have the Slager incident. We see a couple of things. We see Walter Scott jumping out and running. Okay. Then we see later on, we see a struggle. A struggle. It's not like a arms are swinging, fists are swinging, kicking, biting, nothing like that. It was like a struggle. It was a struggle, for a taser. Okay. Then Walter Scott just takes off. He don't swing at the officer and then run. He just takes off. Well, then Slager breaks leather, which means pulling his breaking his holster, pulling his firearm out, and shoots Mr. Scott 6 times in the back. Then on top of that, he then is seen grabbing what appeared, we didn't know what it was, but what it appeared to me to be a taser cartridge or a taser, runs over to the body and then drops it down. And then you read his account, and it's just a lie after lie after lie. So you say it's close to a open and shut case. This should have been. Well, just a couple of days ago, the judge declared a mistrial because one juror decided that he couldn't, wouldn't vote guilty for Mr. Slager. Okay. Now we're being told that because, the makeup of the jury, there was 12 jurors, 11 jurors, something like that. One black person and the rest of them were white. Okay. The black person was the foreman, that we here learned. Okay. So the person that we found out that would not vote to convict was a white male. Okay. Well, we're going to set that. We're going to take that and set that to the side real quick. we're going to break down how I feel we got to this point. Well, first of all, I blame the lion's share of the blame is on the prosecution. Period. It's the prosecution. Now you might say, well, Rich, the prosecution put on the best case they could. The prosecution is not in the jury room when these people are deliberating. Why would you put all of that, all the lion's share, on the prosecution? Well, I'm glad you asked that. Let me break it down. One of the reasons, or the main reason, the juror, who will remain nameless, said that he would not, could not, should not convict or vote to convict Mr. Slager was because he said he could not, in good conscience, convict a police officer, or in his mind, a police officer could do no wrong. So then I say, okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but why wasn't that question asked? First of all, let's just break that down. Let's put that to the side for a second. I know I got a lot of stuff to put to the side, but why was this person even on the jury? You have what they call a voir dire process. And basically what that is you as a prosecutor, you as the defense have a number of, let's say, throwaways where you can throw somebody out for no reason. Okay, I don't know what the breakup is. I know I don't know what the breakup is, or the makeup of it, of how many you could actually throw away from that. But some is 2, some is 5, depending on how big the jury pool is, that type of stuff right there. And then everybody, once you've reached that number, then you can disqualify or dismiss people from the jury for what they say for cause. So my question is, why wasn't that question asked to every juror? The question is, do you feel, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that if I prove my case via the evidence, via testimony, that a police officer, this former police officer, is guilty, can you vote to convict? And if it's anything other than, yeah, sure. If the how do you put it? If the evidence and the testimony shows, yeah, of course, I can. Yes, I can do that. But then you ask yourself, was that even answered? Was it even asked? Because if it was asked and it was answered, then he basically lied during that process. And I know in certain states, and I have no idea about South Carolina, but certain cases, that particular juror can be disqualified, because I know, like in New York, and I'm not too sure about Florida, but like in New York, you have what they call, let's just say you have 12 jurors. You have 12 jurors and you have 2 alternates. 12 jurors and 2 alternates. So basically what that is the alternates, if everything goes right in the trial and there's no sicknesses, there's no disqualifications, then when it's time for the case to get sent over to the jury for deliberation, then the 2 alternates, they're dismissed. They don't go into the deliberation room, but they're there just in case there's some buffoonery and skullduggery. And so I don't know if that was the case in South Carolina. I don't know if there's any provision set in the law that if I ask a question during voir dire and you lie about it, that you're not automatically disqualified, because you would think that is a question that should have been asked, that should have been asked. That, that's a question. I mean, if you, okay, let's just, I was going to say, let's just say I'm black. Okay, I'm black, right? And I'm on the jury, right? And there's somebody who is black, who was a former law enforcement officer, lived in my community or whatever. Okay. And I say, well, I was a former police officer, or I know or knew this person's family, they're going to throw me out. But if I lied about that, and then later on it comes to find out, then that is grounds for a mistrial, and then I will face charges. So that's the first thing that I put on the prosecution. as far as their voir dire process. What was they thinking about? Why was this person even on the jury? If you are doing your due diligence during voir dire. Secondly, her opening statement, parts of her opening and closing statements, I felt was not only condescending, unprofessional, and just bizarre. What I mean by this is this here. People seem to forget. Prosecutors is just that. They are prosecutors. When you are in the courtroom, I am to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. I'm not supposed to help you out. Now, because of the oath that we took, the oath that they took and all that type of stuff, if it comes out either during the trial that there's new evidence, or that somebody lied, or prior to coming up to trial and somebody lies, or we find out that this person is innocent, yes, as a prosecutor, I'm supposed to do my due diligence and make sure that this person goes free. But once we've done all of that, and we are now in front of the jury, we are now conducting this particular trial, I am supposed to have full guns blazing, and I am representing the state and the victim, which should be the same, because the state is made up of the people. Okay? So she has said something in her opening statements, and I don't have the quote here, but I'll paraphrase what she was saying. During her opening statement, she was like, Walter Scott deserved to be prosecuted for what he did, but he did not deserve to die or to be murdered or something like that. Again, I'm paraphrasing. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? First of all, I know for a fact that if you're a prosecutor in any type of city, maybe if you're in a one-horse town, I don't know, you know that people trying to get away is the norm. It is not the exception. People don't want to go to jail. People just don't want to go to jail, especially if you in a neighborhood where you have negative interactions with the police or this type of stuff right there. That is the norm for people to run. I've had so many people run from me. I caught my share. I didn't catch my share. It was what it was. You know what I'm saying? But you understand that. You understand that the people don't want to go to jail. Anybody who's listening or watching this show, I want them to let me know. You want to go to jail? Really? You know what I'm saying? I don't know normal people who want to go to jail. Yeah, people who are in that prison culture, they have nothing going on out here or something like that. Yeah, I can sort of, I know that some of them would be like, well, I'd rather be in jail where I got, 3 squares and a cot. I was a shot caller in there. I ain't shit out here. I can understand that. But again, that's the bell curve theory. Okay. That's 10% of the population. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about the 80% of us. So why would you say that? For what? Basically, you are helping the defense. Now, I know certain people have said on Twitter when we was talking about it that she could have been trying to take the thunder out of what the defense attorneys were saying, trying to bring up all the negativity about Walter Scott and the fact that he contributed to the hill that this was going on. And he did by running. He did. He didn't contribute to his death, but he contributed to how the stop went by running. But there's certain ways that you say things. Hey, did he get pulled over? Was he wrong to run? Yes. Would he have gone to jail? Most likely he would have. But that don't have anything to do with what we see on this video right here. Nothing. Nothing. So that's the first thing. It's the way you say it. You remember we had a show, I don't know, maybe it was the 8th or 9th show where it was like Words Matter, Words do matter, and how you put things, and how you the context that you put, the context that you put things in, they matter. They matter a whole bunch. And then in her closing arguments, again, I'm paraphrasing again, and she was saying that had Walter Scott stayed in his car, he would have been alive. He died for his foolishness, or I think it was foolishness, or I don't think she said stupid. I think it was like foolishness. And I'm like, really? I'm not saying that when Slager pulled Walter Scott over, there was malice in his heart to kill him. No. Not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that she might not, or she might be right. I'm not saying that she might be right or she might not be right. Nobody knows. But I mean, I would lean towards, yeah, he'll probably get pulled out the car, put in handcuffs, taken down to jail for back child support. But in the context of what you say, it means a whole lot. You foster, and then, well, you know what, he's right. You know, she's right. She's right. You know, this is his fault. It sounds like you are making it his fault. You are saying it's his fault. No. Everything that happened after Walter Scott ran the second time, Slager's is responsible for that. And then what to me, what put the nail in the coffin, or what should have put the nail in the coffin, was he seen planting evidence, if you will, and then lied on his report. Let me tell you something. This is on a personal level. There's been many a nights when I work midnights, when we in car chases, or we in foot pursuits, or we work in a club and there's a fight and somebody got a knife, or we're working a concert and there's gunfire going on. I'd be scared out my wits. But remember what I talked about? Not good fear and bad fear, but fear that you can use in a way that will open your senses. It keeps your head on a swivel. Your eyes become wider and clearer. You can smell, you can hear things that heighten your senses. That's the type of fear I'm talking about. I don't even think that at that particular moment, Slager was in fear for his life. When Walter Scott ran, Slager was mad. You know, he might have been in fear when he was tussling with the taser. But what do? Slager looked like he was maybe younger, or maybe the same age as Walter Scott. Walter Scott wasn't no track star, so he was basically galloping. You run after him. You tase him again. You tackle him. You call for help. You don't shoot the man. But see, stuff like this makes people really leery of the quote-unquote justice system. It makes people wonder, say, hold on. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? I mean, because I saw somebody running away. An officer breaks leather, pulls his gun, shoots him 6 times, then picks up his taser, runs over to the body, drops the taser or the cartridge next to the body, and then puts in his police report that he stole my taser. Because let me tell you something. Because tasers are incapacitants, okay? And now you got this Saber Red, which is mace, basic pepper spray. It is so incapacitating that you can articulate and be backed up by case law that if somebody grabs your taser from you, or somebody grabs your spray from you, and they attempt to use it on you, that is a deadly force situation. This is a deadly force situation, because if somebody takes my taser and turns around and uses it on me, I become incapacitated. As long as they got their finger on the trigger, and as long as it's cycling, oh, now you grab my gun, you know what I'm saying? You hit me with a rock, with a brick, you stomp me to death, that type of stuff right there. Same thing with the pepper spray. You feel me? So even if he had grabbed the taser and was running away from him, I would be hard pressed to shoot him in the back. Maybe chase him, got your gun out. If he turns around and makes an avert move, like he's going to turn it on it, then, you do what you got to do. And I have no problem with that. But this was FUBAR from the beginning. And anybody that know what FUBAR is, I'm not going to say it, but it's effed up beyond all recognition. That's what FUBAR means. So you sit back and you think, what is going on here with people? Why is so many people so indifferent to the loss of life? I get this all the time when, we got the little Twitter trolls and stuff. They talking about, black people kill black people all the time. In Chicago, nobody says anything. Well, that's a lie. People bringing up Chicago all the time. You got half the Chicago Bulls out there trying to stop the violence. The Chicago Bulls, the NFL, the NBA franchise. You have what they call Mom for Hugs out there trying to do, the community leaders, the aldermen. I don't know if they call aldermen, they call city councilmen down here, but they're trying to get into the streets and trying to help things out. The fact of the matter is 90% of blacks who are killed by blacks. 81% of whites that are killed by whites. Nobody said anything about white on white crime. You follow what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter is, people are this is what people fail to realize. Barring you not having any type of physical evidence whatsoever, when a black person kills a black person, they go to jail. They go to jail. Rikers Island in New York is full of hundreds of people who have been in Rikers Island, still have not gone to trial. They still don't have a charge, if you will. All people ever want is for the same thing to happen to one, happens to the other. To me, I feel that there should not be any leeway given to a police officer. And I say this as a former police officer. I say that because we know better. We should know better. We get training every year. We are required to have training every year. The last, 10 years of my career, it seemed like every other month we were getting trained on something. Either with defensive tactics, human diversity, firearms, community relations, all of that type of stuff. Defensive. I think I said defensive, but if not, defensive tactics. We know better. We know better. We are held and should be held to a higher standard. You have this illusion that the vast majority of people hold that our job is just so hard and so dangerous. And I say that way to say this. There are people who have to deal with gunfire every day, every time. I'm talking about cops. Every time they go to shift in New York, in LA, in Atlanta, Houston, these big cities. You know what I'm saying? These Chicago, obviously, Boston, that type of stuff right there. I'm not saying that Mayberry and all of them, that they don't have to deal with that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is this. There are also more people, and I'm one of them, that have done 20 to 30 years and never fired their weapon. never been into a physical altercation, never been in a vehicle chase. Okay? There are far more police officers, and there's over 500,000 of them. I'd be willing to say, if you throw out a number of 500,000, I want to say less than 10,000, maybe 15,000 on a good given day has actually had to discharge their firearm. And if you talk about more than once, it's a lot less than that. Because think about it. A lot of times that we hear that a police officer had to shoot and kill somebody, a lot of times, if you look in their past, they've had to shoot somebody before or shoot at somebody before. You know what I'm saying? It's like 50-50, that type of stuff. So what I say is it dangerous? Yeah, it's dangerous. But I guarantee you, the men and women that are patrolling Afghanistan, Somalia, Iraq, that type of stuff right there, the military veterans that are on a DMZ between North and South Korea, I guarantee you their jobs is a whole hell of a lot more dangerous on a regular basis than mine was. And I was a cop for 23 years. Again, I am not downgrading the danger. I'm not saying that it's not dangerous, because there is inherent danger in it. But if you look at the statistics, just look at the statistics. One cop dying to me is one too many. But if you got 500,000 cops, and in 1 year you might have, on a really bad year, you might have 100 deaths, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, how many of those were involved, had, guns or knives involved? Because, you also have drownings, you have suicides, you have heart attacks. Okay. You have those, and those are all put in that number. So again, I'm not trying to throw shade or shit on my profession and my brothers and sisters behind the shield, but I'm just trying to say there are bad apples, and how you weed out bad apples, you pull them out of the bushel. You don't sit around there and always talk about we need training. Yes, training helps. You do. I always say that there should be a block within, it should be federally mandated that there is a block. And I'm not talking about 8 hours. I'm talking about maybe 2 weeks to a month. A block where people of other nationalities, former gang members, criminals, people who have done hard time. Even if you get people who are doing hard time now, they should be able to come in, and you need to interact with them. They need to tell their story. They need to bare their soul to say, look, this is what happens in our neighborhood. This is why this happens. Because let me tell you something. This goes, and it's off on a little beaten path a little bit, but it ties back into what happened with Slager and the juror. There are people in this world, let's just cut that down from the world, in this country who has never interacted with anybody who does not look like them on a regular basis. When I was in the military, my first roommate, real good dude, Jason from Oklahoma. If you're watching, big ups. He never saw a black person in person in his entire life. I think he grew up in a town in Oklahoma. I think it was like 2,700. What was the population? That type of stuff. Never, not once. So, and granted, you could say that was 96. That was what, 30 years ago? Yeah, 30 years ago. Ain't too much changed. You really think that, okay, put it like this. Are you willing to put money that in his town of 2,700, maybe they at up 3,200 now, I don't know. Are you willing to say that there's black and brown people Asian people, in Native American people, Muslims that live there? Could be. But I wouldn't take that bet. I would take the feel, which would be that it's still the same. So these are things that need to be done as far as concerned. But again, I don't think that the shooting was necessarily race related. I believe the stop was. I believe that. I believe that there's a lot of profiling that goes on. I just believe that for that quick second, Slager was mad. I'm not gonna say he blacked out. I'm not going to give him that cowardly out. But he was mad, and for that quick second, he did something that he might have never done before or again. Like what I'm saying again, because hopefully he will never be a police officer at all. And I'm hoping they've already announced that they're going to retry him. And I'm hoping that YD process goes in and we make sure that you get a jury selection that is more representative of the community, because they said it's like 40%, almost 50% African American. Well, you have one African American juror, but we're not gonna get into that. What I'm just hoping is that you have the jurors in there who can look at the evidence on its face and be like, hey, he was wrong. Sorry, Would I have convicted him for murder? I don't know. I didn't watch. Well, it wasn't even televised, but I don't know, because murder it's the hardest to prove, and it's you had a preconceived notion to harm and murder somebody. You know what I'm saying? Manslaughter, I think, was a little bit low. I think right in the middle. I would have charged him, like right in the middle. So I don't know, but we have to be a society who holds people accountable. Just like the President of the United States. The President of the United States should be held to a higher standard. The Pope should be held to a higher standard. Why? Because you are representing the whole. You are more than what yourself. Yes, you are human and you make mistakes. But see, in law enforcement, some of the mistakes that you make can end somebody's life and or maim them. That's why we are trained. Now, I'm being told in certain states, it's easier to get law enforcement certified than a beautician. Like it's like 6 weeks in certain states, in certain jurisdictions, to go through the academy, where it's almost a year to be a beautician. Or, hair cuttery, like a barber, that type of stuff right there. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. If I had a magic wand, the psychological would be in depth. The psychological examination would be more in depth. And you would ask him. I would ask people, if it's an African American cadet, I'd be okay. Well, what is your interactions with Caucasians? What are your interactions with Latinos? If it's a Caucasian cadet, what are your interactions with African Americans or Latinos? That type of stuff right there. And if the answer is, well, I don't know any African Americans, or I don't know any Hispanics, or this, that, and the third. Okay, well, that might be a concern, but it's not going to be a disqualifying concern. But then you understand, okay, this person, you flag this person. Okay, this person has no interactions with anybody outside their race. We have to rectify that. But how you rectify that is not singling that particular person out. What you do is you have a block, a month, where you know what you're doing. On a side note, when I was in charge of the field training unit, well, not in charge, but I was part of that. Because I was able to, because I had a lieutenant who was awesome. Shout out Big Al. He allowed me to expand the training to make sure that our recruits, before they went out on the street to what they call field training, they was in almost any scenario we can think of. You know, at that time, I think I had like 8 years on. My partner, Dave, had 9 years on, stuff like that. We've worked midnights, day shift all over the city, and we understood that there are people who have never had any interaction with people of the same race, the same economic, socio-economic background, the same economic, not I said economic, social background as far as education and stuff like that. And what we would do is we would do what we call recruit scenarios. It was 2 days. It was 2 days or 3 days, 2 or 3 days. And what we would do is we would put them in scenarios. So you would respond to domestic violence calls all day. You would do building searches all day. You would do high-speed chases and foot pursuits all day. You would interact, just regular interactions where you are feeling comfortable with talking to a citizen, making them feel comfortable, but watching your surroundings and making sure that your protection is secured without being an asshole. Now, once I left and I came back to the streets, I was in training from 1999 to 2004. When I left, came back, you know, everybody wants to put their own stamp on it. And now it's a shell. The program is a shell of what it was before. And that's a shame. That's a shame. You have people that get into the car, again, have no interactions at all with anybody who don't look like them. So all of this contributes. Again, this is not, again, remember I told you, it's not a end all be all. But all of this contributes to stuff like Slager incident, stuff like the Eric Garner incident, stuff like the one we'll talk about, the Cincinnati case where the former campus police was out of his jurisdiction, pulling somebody over, messing with somebody. The guy gets in his car, decides to roll off, and the guy shot into the car, killed him. And they just had a mistrial. Same thing, hung jury, same thing like that. So these type of things, we need to be outraged as a society, because the fact of the matter is we all are built with or raised with the sense of right and wrong. That's all it is. You know, I used to talk to some of our leadership in the union when I was a younger officer, when I was really into that. And I was like, you know, what really bothers me is we're quick, no matter what, we're quick to jump and support an officer without knowing all the facts. And if the facts come out that the officer was right, then that's cool. But when the facts come out that the officer is wrong, then we come up with bull crap. We can't do that. We can't do that. We be like, hey, this person is a brother and sister officer. They have our full support. We're going to let the investigation run its course. And that's all we have to say about it. We're not going to sit up here and say that the person did, you know, we feel that the person did everything, you know, that they were supposed to do. You know, we're not going to make up no bullshit story and stuff like that. That's how you're supposed to do it. But unfortunately, you have people who feel that regardless of whatever's done, regardless of who is done to, that a police can do no wrong, a police officer can do no wrong, and they are above the law and should be held to a different standard. Yes, they should be. Out of those three things I said, the last one I agree with 100%. We should be held to a different standard. We should be held to a higher standard because we know better. We're trained. So on that note, we'll keep an eye on the prize, keep hope alive, if you will. We will continue to monitor the situation. I'm hoping within the next week or so, they have a new trial date, and I'm really hoping that I'm not going to say that they get another prosecutor, because other than those three things that I said, she put on a really good, solid case, really solid case. But you just have one juror, and that lets you know that it's a little bit more than just ignorance. You know, it could be a little bit it's some ignorance also, but it could be some bigotry and stuff like that. It could all be that way. So on that note, we're going to end this show. I appreciate you giving me your time. It went over just a little bit longer than what I had hoped, but at least it's not over an hour like we've done on our last couple shows. Remember, Saturday show will be taking all of your questions. And Friday, the second installment of What's the Real Deal show will be covering Amazon and Amazon Prime. I really want to thank you guys for the love that you showed the new show, What's the Real Deal. It debuted last week. We had almost 5,000 views. That's the first time. I mean, granted, this is the second new show on the channel. But our first show, I think we had like 56 views, on our first show of this show. So it was great. I appreciate all the love. Continue showing it to us. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to expand and grow. We're still waiting on me to move out of my condo here into a house. Then we're going to have a little bigger studio and stuff like that. We'll go through the Skype, not Skype, but the chat room. We'll have that. We'll also have live in callers and in studio guests. We're also going to go to a 4K camera to replace the one that we're shooting right now. And we're going to have a good time. We really are. So again, I see you Saturday for Big Rich Live on the Mic installment. We'll be covering your emails and your tweets, DMs, that type of stuff. And Friday, second installment of What's the Real Deal. And we'll be covering Amazon and Amazon Prime. So with that, stay blessed, stay safe, be encouraged. Peace, and I'm out of here.
Buck wild.